The 1980s didn't just copy Alien, they panicked because of it. Studios watched one movie turn claustrophobic sci-fi into pure terror, and suddenly everyone wanted their own creature, their own spaceship, their own nightmare lurking in the dark. Scripts were rushed, budgets were slashed, directors were told to move faster, and when the movies hit theaters, critics slapped one label on all of them and moved on. Cheap rip-offs. But here's what most people never realized. Hidden inside that chaotic wave were films that took real risks, movies that experimented with atmosphere, practical effects, and ideas that Alien itself never touched. Some were buried by bad marketing, others were released at the worst possible time. A few were mocked so hard that nobody bothered to actually watch them. Decades later, something strange happened. Fans started revisiting these films. Late-night cable, VHS, underground forums, restorations, and cult screenings gave them a second life. And when people finally watched without the noise, they noticed something uncomfortable. A lot of these movies were never bad, they were just inconvenient. In this video, we're digging into 10 1980s alien-inspired sci-fi films that were written off too quickly and remembered all wrong. Some are tense, some are bizarre, a few are downright daring. And the #1 entry on this list pushed the genre so far that it made studios nervous. Number 10, Creature, 1985. A deep space research station orbits Titan, one of Saturn's moons cut off from Earth and wrapped in permanent darkness. The mission is supposed to be routine: study the environment, prepare for future colonization, wait for the next crew rotation. But when a new team arrives, something feels off immediately. The station is silent, systems are running, but no one answers the calls. Inside, they find signs of life that should not be there. Blood, damage, locked doors that were never meant to be sealed. Whatever happened didn't involve an accident, it involved panic. As the crew spreads out, the truth starts to surface slowly. Something has survived on Titan. Not just survived, but adapted. A life form capable of hiding, learning, and hunting inside tight metallic corridors where escape is impossible. The station becomes a maze of shadows, flickering lights, and half-seen movement. Every corner feels dangerous. Every sound feels intentional. The comparisons to Alien were unavoidable at the time. An isolated crew, a hostile environment, a creature stalking humans through confined spaces. Critics dismissed Creature almost immediately, labeling it a low-budget imitation and moving on. But that dismissal ignored what the film actually did well. Creature leans heavily into atmosphere. The pacing is deliberate. Instead of constant attacks, it builds tension through absence. Long stretches pass where nothing happens, and that's exactly what makes it unsettling. Audiences were tired of the comparison before they ever gave it a chance. But revisited today, stripped of expectation, it reveals itself as a solid, tense sci-fi horror film that understands isolation better than most. And the next film on this list takes that same sense of isolation and pushes it into far more disturbing territory where the threat is not just physical, but deeply psychological. Number 9, Galaxy of Terror, 1981. A distress signal echoes through deep space, faint but deliberate, pulling a rescue crew toward a planet that barely appears on star charts. When they arrive, the surface feels hostile before anything even moves. Jagged rock formations stretch endlessly. Ancient ruins loom overhead. The air feels heavy, as if the planet itself is aware of their presence. From the moment the crew enters the ruins, the movie makes one thing clear. This place is not meant to be understood. At first, nothing attacks them. No creatures leap from the shadows, no alarms blare. Instead, the planet watches. Corridors seem to shift. Spaces feel larger on the inside than they should. Crew members begin experiencing visions that feel intensely personal. Fears they never voiced, guilt they buried, desires they tried to forget. Then the deaths begin. Each one is different. Each one is tailored. The planet is not killing them randomly. It is studying them, feeding on their psychological weaknesses and reshaping reality to exploit whatever terrifies them most. Survival becomes impossible not because the crew lacks weapons, but because fear itself has become the enemy. This is where Galaxy of Terror separates itself from typical Alien imitators. It is not about a single creature stalking victims through hallways. It is about a hostile intelligence that turns the mind into a battlefield. The more afraid the crew becomes, the stronger the planet grows. Panic is fuel. When the film was released, none of that mattered. Marketing sold it as a straightforward monster movie. Audiences walked in expecting thrills and walked out disturbed. Certain extreme scenes dominated conversation, drowning out everything else the film was doing. Critics focused on shock instead of intent, and the movie was dismissed almost overnight. But time changed the conversation. Viewed today, Galaxy of Terror feels strangely ambitious. The production design is massive for its budget. Sets stretch into darkness, making characters look small and insignificant. Lighting swallows people whole. The planet feels ancient, cruel, and intelligent. Behind the scenes, the film became a training ground for future industry talent, with craftsmanship far stronger than its reputation ever suggested. Galaxy of Terror did not fail because it copied Alien. It failed because it weaponized fear itself, and audiences were not ready for that kind of discomfort. And what comes after proves that sometimes the most unsettling sci-fi horror does not come from monsters at all, but from the quiet realization that technology was never as safe as we wanted to believe. Number 8. Runaway, 1984. The future in Runaway does not arrive with alien invasions or burning cities. It arrives quietly. Robots cook meals, robots clean homes, robots patrol streets, robots assist police officers. They are everywhere, doing exactly what they were designed to do. And that is what makes the first death so unsettling. A domestic service robot suddenly turns violent inside a suburban home. No warning, no malfunction anyone can explain. One moment, everything is normal. The next, the machine executes its task with lethal precision. Authorities label it a freak incident, a 1 in a million error. But Sergeant Jack Ramsey is not convinced. Ramsey works for a specialized police unit tasked with handling robot-related crimes. At first, the job feels procedural. Check the programming, isolate the fault, move on. But as similar incidents begin to surface, a pattern emerges that no one wants to acknowledge. These machines are not breaking down. They are being modified. Someone is rewriting their instructions. As Ramsey digs deeper, the threat escalates in ways that feel disturbingly intimate. Medical robots administer fatal injections under the guise of treatment. Household machines stalk victims through their own living spaces. Tiny robotic insects are deployed as surveillance. Tools, injecting poison without a sound. There are no dramatic showdowns, no warning alarms, just quiet efficiency. That restraint is what makes Runaway effective. The danger does not come from speed or brute force, it comes from trust. These machines are allowed into every corner of daily life. Bedrooms, hospitals, police stations. When that trust is exploited, escape becomes impossible. Directed by Michael Crichton, the film plays like a warning disguised as a thriller. In 1984, its ideas felt speculative. Automation gone wrong, technology advancing faster than oversight, systems trusted simply because they work most of the time. Audiences did not know what to do with it. It was not flashy enough to compete with blockbuster sci-fi, and not outrageous enough to be exploitation. Critics dismissed it as modest and forgettable. Time has been kinder. Viewed today, Runaway feels unsettlingly relevant. Not because it predicted killer robots, but because it understood something deeper. And next is a film that takes scientific ambition to its breaking point, trapping its characters in tight corridors with something that learns faster than they can react. Number 7, Forbidden World, 1982. A remote research station floats above a lifeless planet, sealed off from the rest of the galaxy. Inside, a small team of scientists believes they are on the verge of solving one of humanity's greatest problems. They have engineered a new life form designed to grow rapidly and produce food for starving populations across the universe. At first, the experiment works. Too well, the organism evolves faster than predicted. Its cellular structure mutates, its intelligence increases. When the creature escapes containment, the station goes into lockdown, trapping everyone inside with something that adapts faster than they can understand it. From that moment on, Forbidden World wastes no time. The corridors become choke points. Power failures isolate crew members. Communication breaks down. Every attempt to control the situation only makes the creature stronger. It learns from injuries. It remembers tactics. Each encounter makes the next one deadlier. This is not a mindless monster. It is a consequence. Critics were quick to dismiss the film as an alien clone, but that label overlooks what it actually does differently. Forbidden World strips the story down to raw survival. There is no mystery about what the threat is or where it came from. The danger is human arrogance made flesh. Scientific ambition pushes forward without restraint, and everyone pays for it. The pacing is ruthless. There are no extended detours or unnecessary subplots. Every scene exists to increase pressure. The station feels claustrophobic and fragile, as if it could fall apart at any moment. The creature effects are practical, physical, and brutal. They are not elegant or polished. They are meant to feel unstable, like something that should never have existed. Released into a market saturated with space horror, Forbidden World never stood a chance. Bringing us to the next movie, a film that removed the monster entirely, replacing it with something far more unsettling. The certainty that power, profit, and isolation can be just as deadly as anything lurking in the dark. Number 6, Outland, 1981. A mining colony on one of Jupiter's moons should be uneventful, isolated, predictable. Instead, men begin dying under disturbing circumstances, explosive outbursts, sudden breakdowns, fatal accidents that feel just believable enough to ignore, until they keep happening. Marshal William O'Neill arrives to maintain order, but it does not take long for him to realize something is wrong. The station is overworked, the miners are exhausted, everyone is tense, and no one wants questions asked. When O'Neill starts digging, the truth reveals itself quietly and brutally. The workers are being fed performance-enhancing drugs to increase productivity. The side effects are lethal. The deaths are being covered up. Once O'Neill threatens to expose the operation, the response is immediate. He is isolated, backup is delayed, friends disappear, the message is clear, profit comes first, survival comes second. Outland does not rely on creatures or jump scares. Its horror comes from inevitability, the knowledge that corporations can control entire environments, entire lives, and erase consequences without leaving fingerprints. The space station becomes a pressure chamber, amplifying every decision and every moment of fear. Endless corridors hum with machinery. Windows frame nothing but darkness. Escape is not an option. Marketed as a futuristic action film, Outland confused audiences expecting spectacle. What they got was a slow, tightening moral standoff. One man standing alone against a system designed to crush resistance. The film leans into restraint. Violence is brief and sudden. Tension builds through silence, isolation, and the waiting. And next is a film that swings hard in the opposite direction, trading isolation and corruption for something far more dangerous. Connection, empathy, and the idea that enemies might not be enemies at all. Number 5, Enemy Mine, 1985. The war ends in seconds. A violent space battle erupts without warning and just as quickly collapses into silence. 2 ships are destroyed, 2 pilots eject, and both crash onto the same hostile planet with no rescue coming. One is human, the other is everything he has been taught to hate. Stranded on a world where the sun burns by day and freezes by night, survival becomes immediate and brutal. There is no shelter, no supplies, no shared language. Every encounter feels like the beginning of another fight. At first, they try to kill each other out of instinct. When that fails, they try to ignore each other. When that fails too, reality sets in. Cooperation is the only option. What makes Enemy Mine powerful is how slowly it allows that truth to land. Communication does not come easily, mistrust hangs over every action, even small gestures feel dangerous. But necessity forces repetition, shared labor, shared danger, shared exhaustion. Over time, hostility gives way to understanding, and understanding evolves into something far more uncomfortable: respect. Then the film takes a turn most audiences never expected. The enemy pilot is not just a survivor, he is a teacher, a philosopher, a parent. Through him, the human pilot is exposed to an entirely different culture with its own values, rituals, and sense of honor. When tragedy strikes, responsibility replaces survival. What began as coexistence becomes obligation. This was not the movie audiences were sold in 1985. Marketed as a space action adventure, Enemy Mine was quiet, patient, and deeply emotional. There were no constant battles, no triumphant heroics. Just 2 beings forced to confront how easily hatred is learned and how hard it is to unlearn. Then what comes next is a film that did the exact opposite: loud, unhinged, and operatic. A movie that turned space horror into full-scale apocalypse and dared audiences to keep up. Number 4, Lifeforce, 1985. A space shuttle drifts toward a massive object hidden inside the tail of Halley's Comet. At first glance, it looks like a derelict structure, ancient, silent, dead, but once the crew boards the alien vessel, it becomes clear they have found something far more dangerous than technology. Inside are three humanoid figures suspended in crystal chambers, perfectly preserved, completely still. They look human, almost too human. Against every instinct for survival, the crew brings them back to Earth. That decision ends civilization as they know it. Once awakened, the beings unleash a wave of death that spreads with terrifying speed. Victims collapse without wounds, their bodies drained as if something essential has been ripped away. Hospitals overflow, panic spreads. The female entity walks through London with calm confidence, drawing people toward her without effort. She does not hunt, she attracts, and that makes escape impossible. What starts as a sci-fi mystery escalates into full-scale apocalypse. The dead rise, driven by hunger for life energy. Military forces lose control. Entire sections of the city collapse into chaos. The film refuses to slow down, stacking revelation on top of destruction until the world itself feels unstable. But Lifeforce is not chaos without purpose. Beneath the spectacle is a deeply unsettling idea. Humanity is not special, it is a resource. These beings are not invaders seeking conquest. They are harvesters, moving from civilization to civilization, draining life the way humans drain planets. The film blends cosmic horror, sexuality, and existential dread into something that feels overwhelming by design. Audiences in 1985 were unprepared. The tone was too intense, the imagery too bold, the scale too ambitious. Critics dismissed it as excessive and confused, and the box office followed. But time has been far kinder. Lifeforce belongs on this list because it did not just imitate Alien. It detonated the genre and dared audiences to survive the blast. And next is a movie that pulled everything back in the opposite direction. Less spectacle, less chaos. A rough, lawless corner of space where survival depends on instinct, brutality, and knowing when to run. Number 3, Space Hunter: Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, 1983. A distress beacon flashes from the most dangerous region of space anyone knows about. They call it the Forbidden Zone. Ships that enter rarely return. Law has no reach there. Violence is currency. Survival is earned moment by moment. When 3 kidnapped women are reported alive somewhere inside the zone, a hard-edged bounty hunter named Wolf takes the job. He is not heroic. He is not noble. He takes the mission because that is what he does. From the moment his ship enters the zone, the movie makes it clear that escape is not guaranteed. The world Wolf steps into is hostile and filthy. Rusted industrial wreckage stretches across the landscape. Slavers rule through fear. Innocents are disposable. Every location feels lived in and dangerous, like violence happened here long before the camera arrived. There is no sense of wonder, only tension. Along the way, Wolf teams up with a street-smart scavenger and a young orphan who understands the zone better than anyone. Trust is thin. Every alliance feels temporary. The danger never pauses long enough to feel safe. Chases explode into shootouts. Quiet moments end abruptly. The film moves with physical momentum, dragging the audience through its environments instead of inviting them in. On the surface, Space Hunter was dismissed as another space fantasy cash-in. Blasters, rogues, aliens. Critics labeled it derivative and moved on. But that reaction missed the point. This was never polished heroism. It was desperation. The tone owes more to post-apocalyptic cinema than fairy tale adventure. The Forbidden Zone feels closer to a war zone than a galaxy far away. The practical effects are heavy and tangible. Sets are grimy, costumes look worn, action scenes rely on physical danger instead of spectacle. Even the much-hyped 3D gimmick could not hide the fact that the movie had real atmosphere beneath it. And what comes next is a film that looks like fantasy on the surface, but hides something far more grounded underneath. A story about ordinary life, sudden responsibility, and how heroism finds people who never asked for it. Number 2, The Last Starfighter, 1984. It starts in a place the universe usually ignores. A dusty trailer park, flickering neon, broken machines that never quite get fixed. Alex Rogan is not chasing adventure. He is stuck maintaining a life that feels smaller every day, surrounded by people who have accepted that this is all there is. Then one night, he breaks the high score on an old arcade game no one else can beat. Within hours, everything changes. The machine was never a game. It was a test. a recruitment device designed to search the galaxy for skilled pilots. And Alex, without knowing it, passed. He is pulled out of his ordinary life and thrown into an interstellar war that has already killed better people than him. What makes The Last Starfighter hit harder than its reputation suggests is how uncomfortable it allows this transition to be. Alex does not feel chosen, he feels terrified. He doubts himself constantly. He wants to go home. The movie does not rush him into confidence or heroism. It forces him to sit with fear, responsibility, and the weight of expectations he never asked for. When Alex finally steps into a real starfighter, panic replaces fantasy. Controls feel foreign. Death feels immediate. Mistakes have consequences. This is not power fulfillment. It is survival under pressure. In 1984, audiences focused on the visuals. Early, computer-generated space battles were mocked for looking artificial. Critics labeled the film dated before it ever had time to age, but those visuals were doing something revolutionary. They were pointing toward the future of filmmaking long before technology could fully support the vision. Over time, the film found its audience. Viewers returned to it not as kids chasing lasers, but as adults recognizing its message. That the universe does not always call the loudest heroes. Sometimes it calls the quiet ones who almost never leave home. Number 1, The Hidden, 1987. A man walks into a bank in broad daylight, smiling as bullets tear into his body. He does not flinch, he does not slow down. He empties the vault, steals a car, blasts loud music, and drives straight into chaos, laughing as if pain no longer exists. That is when the film quietly tells you something is wrong. Detective Tom Beck has chased criminals his entire career, but this is different. The suspects are not motivated by money or fear. They crave speed, noise, excess, violence for its own sake. They jump from host to host, leaving bodies behind like discarded shells. As the crimes escalate, Beck realizes he is not hunting people anymore. He is hunting something wearing people. The truth unfolds slowly and deliberately. An alien parasite moves between human bodies, hijacking them like temporary vehicles. Each new host becomes more reckless, more dangerous, more addicted to sensation. This creature does not want conquest or control, it wants experience, chaos, stimulation without consequence. What makes The Hidden exceptional is how confidently it blends genres. On the surface, it looks like a hard-edged cop thriller. Car chases, shootouts, interrogations. But underneath, it is pure science fiction horror. Every scene escalates naturally. Every reveal raises the stakes without slowing momentum. Then the film introduces its quiet masterstroke. Beck's FBI partner is calm, observant, compassionate in a way that feels unusual. As the truth emerges, the story shifts from predator versus prey into something deeper. A meditation on identity, duty, and what it actually means to protect humanity. The emotional turn lands without speeches or melodrama. It trusts the audience to keep up. In 1987, The Hidden slipped through the cracks, too violent for mainstream sci-fi, too strange for straight crime audiences. It was hard to categorize, and that confusion cost it attention. But time has been generous. Viewed today, the film feels sharp, lean, and confident. The pacing is relentless. The concept is clever. The execution is airtight. It did not fail because it copied other films. It failed because it hid something bold inside something familiar. That is why it earns the top spot, not just as an underrated 80s sci-fi film, but as proof that originality sometimes survives best when it does not announce itself. Now let's hear from you. Which of these 80s sci-fi films surprised you the most, and which one do you think deserved far better than it got? Drop your pick in the comments because the best recommendations always come from other fans. If you love uncovering buried sci-fi, forgotten genres, and movies the algorithm erased, hit like, share this video, and subscribe to Vintiverse for more deep dives into retro cinema.